Now, following the tragedy in Minneapolis, what have schools here in Ohio been working on to make their campuses safer in case the worst happens? Catherine Huntley just spoke to Governor DeWine about this, and Catherine is live for us now in Ashtabula County.
Well, devastatingly, when things happen like it just did in Minnesota, it puts everybody, parents and students, on edge. Now, for years, schools have been working to increase safety, doing things like numbering the outside of classroom windows for first responders and making it not as easy for anyone who wants to just get into these schools. But the state of Ohio is continuing to work towards increased safety. Following yet another school shooting in the U.S., Mike DeWine says schools in Ohio can contact the state and the Department of Public Safety. Experts will come out to their campus and give recommendations on how the school can be safer. He says there's also some money available from the state to help with those improvements.
It's all in the preparation. It's being ready. And it's also doing things that may deter someone from coming in and doing this. So there's no guarantee that tragedy will not strike, but we have an obligation to minimize the odds that that will happen.
DeWine says the reality is schools are very safe and they are actively working to minimize any safety risks. DeWine also points out that just like fire drills, the staff and the students need to know what the process is in case the worst happens.
You have to drill these things. You have to practice. And as much as we hate doing that with our kids, the kids knowing what to do in case something happens and the teachers knowing what to do is vitally important.
Now, this year in Ohio, there's 97 school districts that allow armed staff. That's up by more than 20 districts from just last year. I asked Governor DeWine if more districts should choose to do that. He said it's up to individual communities to decide if that's right for them. But again, it all comes back to proper training and proper protocols to be in place so that everybody knows what to do in case of an emergency. For now in Ashtabula, Catherine Huntley, 19 News.